is Kelly Dale with offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. I'm so excited that you joined me today because we're going to be making a fun new pair of earrings that is going to stretch your knowledge of odd count peyote and brick stitch a little bit. The great thing about these earrings, there's two ways that you can actually make them into earrings. You can either wear them as I've got them in the picture, or you can flip them upside down. They're going to be really, really cute either way. We have St. Patrick's Day coming up soon in March, and I thought, what better way than to make a little pair of rainbow earrings, because rainbows, pots of gold, things like that are all like the cliche synonymous things that go with St. Patrick's Day. So the first thing you want to do is pause the video right now and go to offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com and grab your free pattern for today. Okay, this is the pattern. This is the earring that I'm going to be showing you how to make today. And like I said, the really cool thing is you can do it like this, which I have in the pattern, or you can do it like this. I think it's kind of cool like this. To me, it almost looks like a little flame, like a candle flame. So it's kind of cool. But I wanted to do a new shape, a new fun little shape type thing. So that's what we're going to do today. So you need to go to offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com and get the On Point Rainbow Earrings pattern. It's under the free section. So if you go to step-by-step tutorials, and then there's a whole section for free, you can download it completely for free. Now, although it is free, you still have to go through the checkout process so that our system can send you the link to be able to download. And the reason that we have you do it that way, and we have you set up an account, is because if you check out as a guest, what happens is you basically get an email with your links, and then that's the only way you get the links. If you have an account on our website, you're able to go back, log into your account over and over again, and you have access to those accounts as long as you are those downloads, as long as you have an account with us at offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. So just a little tidbit of info there. So if you look on your pattern, you will see a list of colors that you need. Now, I have done mine in a rainbow, which is Roy G. Bibb, which is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Okay, Roy G. Bibb. That's the easiest way to remember the rainbow. So I've done mine in those, but you can do like variegated colors would be cool. Mono, like going from like a dark blue to a light blue. All of those fun things would be really, really neat for these earrings. But it does take A through I. So it takes quite a few colors, but there's very few grams of each color. So it's a great way to use up some extra Delica stash that you may have. With those Delicas, you are also going to need 12 size 15 seed beads. You are going to need a size 12 beading needle. Don't fight me on this, okay? Just size 12. And then you are going to need 5 yards of your favorite beading thread. Now, when I say your favorite, use your favorite, but just know that if you use a thicker thread, like an 8-pound or something like that, you're going to have a much harder time. The thread you use needs to be a 6-pound or below on that pound scale or size scale to be able to work really good for this project. For me, I'm going to be using the 0.006 in the white dragon thread today. It's just what I like using, but use whatever you have. So let's get our materials together, grab you a good pair of scissors, and let's get started. So the first thing that we need to talk about before we even thread our needle is our graph, okay? I had several testers for this pattern, and I basically had each set of testers do it a different way. So some chose to do it by decreasing peyote stitch, where they started here and they worked their way up and did decreasing. Some did odd count and brick, and some did all brick, okay? So the great thing about this pattern is it can be worked any of those ways. But I will tell you, the group that did the decreasing peyote stitch, all of those people had issues with the decreasing peyote. So I came up with the easiest way to do this pattern. So when you look on your pattern on page 5, you have the full graph. So if you want to go to page 5 and do whatever version of this you want to, then be my guest, have at it, okay? But if you go by my pattern, on page 2, we are going to start with the center of the graph. What this is going to do, we're going to do this in odd count peyote. And what this is going to do as we work the graph, it's going to complete the whole center of our piece. And then we only have to go back and do a few rows on each side of brick stitch. Okay, so I have actually busted out the graph on each side so that you can see. So this is just your center graph, what we're going to be doing. And then as we do the sides, I've got it busted out for you. Now again, if you download this to your printer, you can print this off as many times as you like to be able to mark off as you go, or you can also just slide it in a clear plastic sleeve and use a dry erase marker and mark off each row. So when you're done, just wipe it off and you're set and good to go again. Now, the one thing that this does not come with is a word chart. And oh my gosh, I can hear some of you groaning already from my side of the video. But guys, I know that some of you have a hard time, but this is something that we have to learn, okay? So I'm gonna show you how we're gonna read our graph, how we're going to do it, and then how to do each of our rows of brick stitch, because they're a little tricky if you don't pay attention. So let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is lay out your beads exactly like it says on page 1 of your pattern. Now, of course, they are not in the rainbow as you see it here. This is just how the software put it into the numbers. So this is the first thing that you want to do. And if you have a question about my little cups here, these are magnetic. They are the Bead Easy system from beadsgonewild.com. I'll put a link below in the video. So if you're interested in these, you can check them out. This is just how I like organizing my beads. I have threaded my size 12 needle with 2.5 yards of thread. And you can see here, this is what we're going to be making today. Now, like I said, you can either wear it like this, or you can flip it around and wear it like this. I think it's going to be pretty either way. Or be totally 80s and make one like this and then make the other one like that, and you're good to go. So what we're going to do to start, we are actually starting here at the bottom of this center part. So we're starting here. And you will notice on your graph, I already have blocked out in red blocks here your first row of beads that we will be doing. Now, like I said, we are doing odd count peyote stitch. All right, so I'm going to show you how I do it. You do it, whatever floats your boat. But our first row here is going to be A, B, B, H, B, B, A. So that is our first row of beads. And yes, so that is what we're going to put on first. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to thread them on. So A, B, B, H, B, B, and A. So I have my first row of beads threaded on here, and I'm going to bring these down. Now, when I bring these down, I want to leave about a yard tail thread. Okay, I know that sounds way excessive, but what I'm going to be doing is I want to leave enough that I can actually go back and add my brick stitch on the other side. So I want plenty of thread to be able to do the brick on the other side of my piece as well. So I'm going to go ahead and on my graph, I'm going to mark off the beads that I just did. Now, we are not going to worry about these beads below because we are going to go back and add them when we do our first row of brick stitch. So the next row that we do, and oh my gosh, my glittery pen is wreaking havoc on the camera here today. What I'm going to do next is we're going to be working back this way, and we are going to be doing a 4 bead row. So I'm going to be working with this bead, this one, and this one. Okay, so these are the 4 beads that I'm going to be working with. So the first one I'm going to put on is an A. So I'm holding my beads in place because remember, I wanted a yard tail thread to work with. So I've got an A. I'm going to skip a bead and go through the next bead, working back in the other direction. So I'm actually going to hold these beads in place as I pull the thread. And what I want to happen is I want these 2 beads to sit on top of each other, just like they are here. If they don't sit like that, just make them do it. Okay, the next bead here, I've got 2 H's and an A. So I'm going to pick up an H, skip a bead and go through a bead. Pick up an H, skip a bead and go through a bead. And then you'll notice here, I only have 1 bead left on the end. So this is where I'm going to pick up an A. So let me grab it over here. I'm going to pick up my A, and now I'm going to do a turnaround. So I'm going to take the thread that is, or my tail thread, which is here around my finger, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go under that tail thread that I have here. When I pull it through, I'm holding it tight against my finger because I do not want this bead to come under that thread to this side. I want my bead to stay on this side of the beadwork. Okay, just like that. Now, I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come back through the same bead that I just threaded on. So what happens is the tail thread wraps itself around that thread here. So this tail thread here is going to move up every row that we do. So these are our first rows. So now I can mark off the A, H, H, A, because that's what I just did. Now my next row is a 3 bead row. So one row you are going to have a 4 bead row, and then the next row is going to be a 3 bead row. Okay, so they are going to alternate 4 bead, 3 bead, 4 bead, 3 bead, all the way up. So we're working back this direction. So I'm going to be picking up a B, an H, and a B. So I've got this line here. See, here's my B. I follow the line to the next bead I'm going to add on. Follow the line to the next bead. You can use the lines here to help you follow what needs to be your next bead. So this row here is a B, an H, and a B. So working just regular peyote, I pick up a B, pick it up and come through the next bead sticking up. An H, so I pick it up and come through the next bead sticking up, and then a B. And again, I come through the next bead sticking up, just like that. So that one was the 3 bead row. So now I can mark off my 3 bead row. So B, H, B. Okay, so now we're working back the other direction. I'm going to be picking up a 4 bead row. So that's going to be B, follow my line to my next one, follow my line to the next one, follow my line to the next one. So my next row is B, H, H, B. So working back in the other direction, B, so I pick it up and I go through the next bead sticking up. H, pick up and go through the next bead sticking up. H, go through the next bead sticking up, which is going to be my black bead here. And now remember, the last bead on the row is a B, but again, I don't have one to skip and go through. So this is what makes this an odd count peyote. So I pick up my B, I hold the thread tight around my finger, and I take my needle and I go under that thread. Remember, the bead here on this side needs to stay on this side. So I pull it through, and then I come through the bead that I just added. And again, when I pull it, you'll see that my tail thread has now moved up another bead, and my working thread is exactly where it needs to be to start the next row. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to mark off the next row, which was that B, H, H, B. Okay, when I work back the other way, my next bead is a 3 bead row. So it's H, H, H. Okay, so I'm going to do this row and the next row for you. And I'm going to let you go to town. So this one's easy. It's the same color. So we pick up the bead, come through the next bead sticking up. Pick up a bead, come through the next bead sticking up. And then pick up a bead, come through the next bead sticking up. Just like that. Okay, so I can actually mark that one off. H, H, H. Okay, so now I'm working back in the other direction. So I'm going to pick up a 4 bead row. So I've got H, follow my line, H, follow my line, H, follow my line, H. So this row is 4 H's. So again, it's a pretty easy row. It's all the same color. So I'm working the other direction towards my tail. And I'm just going to pick up this row. You're always working regular peyote until you get to the side that has your little tail thread there. And that's when you know, hey, I've got to do that odd count turnaround. So one more time, I'm picking up my bead. This is the tail thread, and I'm just kind of holding it tight over my finger. The needle goes under the tail thread here. And the bead has to stay on this side. And then I come back through the same bead again, so that now I have that row complete. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to mark off this row. All right, so I'm going to continue working in my odd count peyote until I get all the way up to here, and then I'm going to show you how to start doing some of this decreasing to get to add to your point. So when you get your strip to the top, this is what it looks like so far. So what I just did, I just completed the last row that I could do without having to move my thread around, which was the A, the I, and the A. So now my next row is only going to be a 2 bead row here. So you can see I'm going to have a B and a B. So what I need to do at this point, I need to stitch through my beads and turn around to come back out of this bead up here, the bead I just added. So how I do that is I'm going to come up through the bead right next to where my thread's coming out. I'm going to come up through the black bead right here next to it on kind of diagonal on the next row. I'm going to come down through the bead right next to it on that same row. And then down through that gold bead I was just coming out of. So basically I made a little triangle so that now I'm coming out this way, and then I can just go through this bead and this bead, and I'm in my spot. So now I've got to add 2 B's. So I'm adding these the normal way. So I pick up a B, and I go through the next bead here. Pick up a B, and go through my gold bead here on the end. So that finishes out what that row should look like. So now I can mark this and this. So now you see here, my next row is going to be an A, a B, and an A. So this row is going to be a little different again. So I'm coming out here, so I can go ahead and I can put on my A, and I can put on my B, but there is no bead to go through here to be able to add that A. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do another turnaround, but this turnaround is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to pick up my A, and I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to wiggle it under the thread between these end two A's here. I'm going to pull this through. I'm going to straighten that bead up there. And then I'm going to go through the bead I just added. So I technically did the same thing as I did over here. I'm just using the thread between these two beads as a tail thread. So it looks just like that. Okay, so that's a little different from what you've done there. So I'm going to mark off my A, my B, and my A. So now my next row is 2 A's here. So that one's pretty easy. Okay, so A, and A. But now I need to add 1 bead right here, because if you look, if I mark those off, the next row is a B right here in the middle. So what I need to do is I need to turn around. So I'm coming out of this bead here because I need to basically be coming out this direction. So I'm going to go through these 2 beads here. So I'm going to go down through the bead right next to where I'm coming out, and the bead kind of diagonal to it right there on that next row. And then I'm going to go through the black bead and the gold bead here, so that it kind of makes that triangle stitch or triangle turnaround. And then I will come through the 2 beads there, so that now I can put on a B. But again, we change up again because I have an A and an A here. So what I need to do, the first one's not going to be bad. I can pick up the A and I can go straight through the B that I just added. But then I have to do another one of those kind of loop around stitches to add my A here. So I pick up the A, I come under the thread between the 2 A's kind of below it there. Pull it through. Straighten the bead up, make the bead sit correctly, and then come back through the bead that I just added. And then the last bead on the very top is an A, so I pick up that A and I put that point in like that. And now I can mark that off. Now, the thing is, if I want, and let me find my sample here. If I want it to hang, if I want my earring to hang like this, the way it is now, I would go ahead and add my loop here to this bead here at the top. And I'll show you how that's done in a minute. But I would go ahead and add that loop, so that way you've already got it there and you don't have to worry about going back and putting in that loop. But I'm going to be coming back down and putting my loop down here in just a second, so you'll be able to see how that's done. But that's what I would do if I want it to hang this way instead of this way. Now I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to grab my next chart here, which is number 3. Let me zoom this out a little bit. So this is my chart for number 3. You can see I had my single strip here up the middle, and now I'm going to do my side, which is brick stitch. So I need to be coming out, I need to stitch down so that my needle is coming out of this last A on this side. So it needs to be coming down out of the last gold on this side of the piece. I'm just going to leave my tail thread hanging out over here, because that way I can just thread my needle onto that end to finish this side. So I'm just going to I'm going to zoom in again for you here. I'm going to take and I'm going to start stitching through And again, it doesn't matter what bead you go through as long as you don't see the thread across the top of the bead. All right. So now my thread is coming out of this end gold right here, exactly where it needs to be for my chart. So you'll notice here my first two A's, this is decreasing brook stitch because you can see it gets smaller as we go down. So this means that the first stitch every time I'm going to be picking up 2 beads. Now these beads will kind of sit centered over these 3 beads here. So I'm going to pick up 2 A's, and from the bead that my thread is coming out of, so from this gold right here, I'm going to skip the first thread bridge, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go under the second thread bridge from the bead that my thread is coming out of. So I'm going to go through that and go ahead and pull. Your beads will sit wonky like this, so you want to take your needle and you're going to go up through the bead right above where your thread's coming out, and always pull the thread straight up or straight down depending on which direction you're going. Okay, but now this bead sits funky, so what we've got to do is we've got to come down through this first bead, and again pull the thread straight down, and then I'm going to go up through the bead that I just was coming out of. And again, when I pull the thread, I'm going to pull it straight like this so that those beads now sit straight and they look really good. So let me go ahead now and I'm going to mark off these 2 beads because I just added those. So now I'm only going to pick up 1 bead at a time. So if you want to, you can definitely lay out your row of beads here. The great thing is after these next 2 colors, the next 1, 2, 3, 4 colors, you're just putting on 3 beads a piece. They're a little bit easier to follow. But I'm going to pick up a B. I'm going to go ahead and mark it off. But I pick up a B. I go under the very next thread bridge. So I'm not skipping anything. I'm just going to go under that little thread bridge there, pull it through, and then I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go up through the bead that I just added. And again, pull your thread straight up or straight down. All right, now the next one is a B. So I pick up a B and I go under the very next thread bridge here. This is why it's really important to use a size 12 needle because it makes it a lot easier to get in and out of where you need to go. Okay, and then from here, I go to my next one, which is going to be F. And I'm just going to continue to follow my graph until I get down to the bottom of the row. Okay, and each time I'm just picking up 1 bead and going under the very next thread bridge. So you can see what that's starting to shape up there. So if I'm going with my pattern here, I just mark off that next B and I mark off these 2 F's, and I'm just going to continue to work down until I finish out my row. So once you finish out that row, you'll be coming out down here at the bottom. The thing is, we still need to add our little point down here, and we're going to go ahead and use this thread to add this point while we're down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this needle and I'm going to stitch down through my beads. Again, it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there and you don't see your thread. But I'm going to stitch down to come out of this last A here. Now, remember the first row that I put on was this row here. That was the first row I did. So the next row is going to be an A, a B, and an A. So I go ahead and I do the A, the B, and the A. Now, just like the previous rows, what happens is once I get this A, B, and A on here, now I need 2 A's. So I have to turn around, just like I had done up here. So I'm going to do that turnaround so that I'm coming out of the gold one that I just added. And be careful that you don't bust any beads. Be gentle. Okay, and so I'll come up through those 2 beads. So the next one were 2 A's. So I've got 1 and 2. But now I need to put 1 little A right here. So again, I'm going to do a turnaround. So that I can come out of the bead here at the top where I need to be. And then I'm going to pick up my A and go through so that now I have the point. Now, I'm going to go ahead, just like I was telling you, if you want it to hang down here, go ahead and put your loop. I'm going to go ahead and put my loop in up here. So I'm going to stitch through the beads to come back out of the point bead that I just added. And now I'm going to be using my 15s. So normally I would have tried to use a bright gold for my 15 since I've got the gold around the edge. But I made this first sample at home of this pattern and I didn't have any bright gold. So I used a matte gold. So I pick up 6 15s and I'm going to come back through the same bead my thread's coming out of so that it makes the circle. And then I'm going to reinforce this little circle of beads several times here. So I'm not adding anything. I'm just going back through the beads and then through that base one again. I'm going to do this at least this once more. All right, so now the point is finished and I have my loop on here. So the way to remember which side I was on is this is the side that is not complete yet. So this is the side that I had started my new row. So what I need to do is I need to stitch through the beads to come out of this gold bead right here at the very end. So just like my previous row, my next row here is going to be a decreasing row. The only difference is instead of starting up here, we're going to be starting down here and working our way back up. So the first 2 beads that I'm going to put on is an A and a B. So I pick up my A and my pen. That's absolute must have. So I pick up my 2 beads, I skip the first bead and I come under the skip the first thread bridge and come under the second thread bridge. Pull it through and go up through the bead right above where your thread's coming out. Now remember, they sit wonky to each other, so to fix that, I have to go down through the first bead and pull the thread straight down. And then I have to go up through the second bead. And again, when I pull that thread straight up to where it straightens those 2 beads up for your row. So again, from this point on, now I'm only going to be picking up 1 bead at a time. So my next bead is a G, and I just go under the next thread bridge and then go up through that bead. The next bead is a G, so I pick that up, go under the next thread bridge, and pull that through. And then I finish out this row just like I did the previous row. So my row is complete, and I'm ready to start the next row. Now, the only thing is, you'll notice that my next row is this row here, and I'm going to be working down. But the bead or the 2 beads that I'm adding here are not up here where my thread is coming out. They are down here between these two beads. So what I need to do is I need to stitch around to come out of the second gold and not the first gold to start the row. So you've got to do a turnaround. So I'm going to come down through my beads here so that I can then come out of the gold bead there. And now I'm ready to start the next row. So just like the previous rows, you start the row with 2 beads, skip the first thread bridge from where your thread is coming out, and go under the second thread bridge. And then we've got to straighten these beads up. And then I'm ready to start on my row. So I now have this row complete, as you can see here. And the great thing is my next row, which is going to be this row right here, there's nothing special that I have to do. So I can just start by picking up my 2 A's and working back up the row. All right, so that row is complete, just like you see here. Now, just like we had to do on the row before over here, if you look at the next row that we're going to be working, it's these 2 beads are not over here. They are over these 2 beads. So before you start this row, you need to make sure that you're coming out of this second A there. So instead of coming out of the first A, I need to be coming out of the second A to start the row. So we do the turnaround. Okay, so I've done my turnaround and now I'm ready to start the row. Oh, we're almost there. We've got that row complete and all we have is 2 rows left because I just finished this row. Now I'm doing this row. Now you'll notice that this is a big kind of move up. So I have to be coming out of this bead right here to be able to start the next row. So what I have to do is I have to come down through the gold right next to where my thread's coming out and then up through the next gold so that I can then work this row. Okay, last row for this side here. So I just finished this row. And now to finish out the last row, I need to be coming out of this bead right here. So I'm coming out here, so I need to be coming up out of that bead. So again, you'll want to do your turnaround and then come back out of this bead to finish out this row. So now the last row on this side is complete. Do not get rid of this thread yet. And the reason I say to leave this thread is because if you made a boo-boo and did not leave a long enough tail thread here to add your last rows on this side, you will still have this thread that you can then you can stitch over to finish out this side. So what we're going to do at this point is you are going to use the other chart to do the other side of your earring. So you'll do that and then I'll show you what our finished product will be and what we have to do to finish it off. Once you have both sides complete, you should still have 2 threads coming out. So all you have to do is finish out your thread. And to do that, all I'm going to do is stitch through several beads in different directions. So I came down out of this one. I'm going to come up through this one, back down through that same bead again. And then I might come through a bead on the next row. And then up through a bead. Again, it doesn't matter which bead you go through, as long as you don't see the thread across any of the beads. And then once you're happy, take your scissors, thread zapper, whatever you want, and get rid of that thread. And then you're going to do the same thing with your other thread. Once you have both of your earrings complete, then all you want to do is take your ear wires, open up the loop, and then run your ear wire through the loop you made on the top of your earring, and then close your ear wire. And then you have a beautiful new earring. So when you get your earrings done, now you can wear them. I love them. I think they're so much fun, and I look forward to wearing these in the future. But now you know I couldn't leave you with just these. So we have Free Shipping Friday coming up on Friday, March the 3rd of 2023. And in February, anybody who placed an order, like a physical order that day, got a free pattern. Well, it's the same thing for March, except for you're going to get these cute little 4-leaf clover ones. I love them. And you can see how different they look depending upon which way that you put the ear wires. So again, the little 4-leaf clover earrings are going to be a pattern that's going to be for free if you place an order on March the 3rd, 2023, which is our Free Shipping Friday. And if you've never shopped with us for Free Shipping Friday, all you have to do is go to offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com, spend $15 or more and have it shipped anywhere in the U.S. to get the free shipping. Now, I know some of you aren't in the U.S. and can't apply or get the free shipping, so I'm going to have this pattern for sale as well on my website for those of you who just want the instant download of that. Also, I do have kits available, enough to make one pair of these earrings. And again, you can find those at offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and come back next week because I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful pair of earrings using crawl with duos, and encasing an SS39 chaton. So I cannot wait to show you those. So I hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.